I've done this a couple times in the past, so why not one more? Here are some short series by Marvel and DC in the Silver and Bronze Age that are pretty easy to collect and won't cost you an arm and a leg. Hey everyone, it's Kevin. Welcome again to Doc's Comics. It's been a semi-popular series that I've been doing, so I'm going to do another one while we're at it. Short series done by Marvel and DC in the Silver and Bronze Age that aren't too expensive, that are relatively easy for you to get. And I've got 5 more series in this video. The shortest one is 5 issues, and the longest one is 23. So let's get right into it, starting with the first one. And that first series is Bomba Jungle Boy, published by DC Comics. It lasted for 7 issues. The first issue was published in October 1967, and it lasts for a year until September of 1968. This comic was based on a couple of things. It was based on sort of an adventure fiction series that was done in the 1920s and 1930s, popular among children of that era. It lasted 20 different novels, and also loosely on a movie series that followed up in the 1950s based on the same character. Um, Tarzan, of course, was very popular during this era, and this was a way for competitors to try to capitalize on that same kind of thematic sort of thing here. The series itself, as I told you, it lasts for 7 issues. It is The art is 2 or 3 different artists. The writer is 2 or 3 different writers. So like a lot of these shorter series that I've mentioned in previous videos, kind of hops all over the place. But Jack Sparling is involved. Denny O'Neil writes a few of these, um, and it's a pretty inexpensive series to get. The first one, black cover, is going to run you, if you wanted it in nice shape, 50 bucks, maybe a little less. And then all the other ones you should be able to get for $20 or less. So it's a 7 issue series, a little bit of a nice backstory to it. Bomba Jungle Boy. The second short series that I'll feature today is Ms. Marvel. Now, we know Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel have had a number of different manifestations throughout the years, and a very popular character still to this day, but much more humble beginnings. Carol Danvers made her first appearance in Marvel Superheroes number 13, then made a couple of appearances in the Bronze Age, Silver Age Captain Marvel, particularly of significance is number 18, where she's caught in an explosion and ultimately gains superpowers, which leads up to this Bronze Age title, Ms. Marvel, which launches in January of 1977 and lasts for 23 issues all the way until April of 1979. This was kind of marketed as a women's rights, a women's lib book, as the women's movement was going on during that period of time in the mid 1970s. But of course, Carol Danvers and Ms. Marvel evolved quite a bit over the years and have a number of complicated storylines that maybe we could talk about in a future series. But it lasted for 23 issues. I would argue that this is probably the most expensive of the. It's definitely the longest, but the most expensive of the 5 series that I'm recommending today. But it's also, I would say, the most plentiful of all of them. The first issue used to be a lot higher, but you can get a very nice copy of this for under 100 bucks, even maybe under $50. And then there are a couple of others that cost a little bit of money. 16 through 18 are early Mystique appearances. The most expensive of those is number 18, which is the first full appearance of Mystique. And that's another book that's dropped a lot. You can probably get a very high grade copy for $200 or less these days. One of the things that I really like about the Ms. Marvel series is that it has some fantastic covers by the creative team of Dave Cockrum and Terry Austin. I think it's some of their best covers that they did throughout either one of their careers. But there were a couple covers that were done by John Buscema. Jim Starlin did a cover as well, and the creative teams, just like a lot of these series in the Bronze Age, are kind of all over the place. It's a fun series, fabulous covers. You can definitely see the evolution of this character throughout this 23 issue series, including a significant costume change. It's used a lot later in future series. Of course, she's changed her costume quite a bit over the years, but it's a fun series, a relatively inexpensive series if you can get your over the hump and get those 2 or 3 that can be pretty pricey. The third series that I'll cover today is another Marvel series, and this one is Red Sonja. I'll be relatively brief on this one since I did talk about Volume 2 of Marvel Feature in a previous video I did on collecting short series. But needless to say, Red Sonja follows up that Series 2 of Marvel Feature, and it lasts for 15 issues, starting with number 1 in January of 1977, and it runs until number 15, as I said, in May of 1979. You know that Red Sonja is a Robert Howard creation slash inspiration, depending upon the spelling and who you ask, and has carried on through countless series up until the modern age. But it still follows along with the quality. That was a Marvel feature. The amazing Frank Thorne does the art in the first 11 issues, and then it's followed by 3 issues done by John Buscema, and one lone issue, number 14, was done by John's little brother Sal, with Roy Thomas scripts throughout the entire series. This is going to be a relatively inexpensive series for you to get. Assuming high grade, number one will run you probably under $40, and then the rest you should be able to get for $10 or less, even in pretty good shape. So a pretty easy one to get, and you're going to get some great Frank Thorne art. For number 4, I'll throw in another quirky series from DC, and this one is Captain Action, which is a 5-issue series from DC. The first issue appeared in October of 1968, and it lasted until June of 1969. This series, of course, is based on the toy line that was done from Ideal Toys at the time. Pretty popular toy line in the late 1960s with a lot of action figures and various other kinds of things. But the series itself is no slouch either. Issue 1 is done by Wally Wood with a cool Superman cover to give it that extra little bit of selling power. And then there's a lot of Gil Kane art that's tossed into this series as well. This series is kind of expensive on a per issue basis. Of course, it depends on how you define uh, expensive, but you can get issue 1 for I don't know, under $75 in a very fine near mint, give or take, and then the rest of them 2 through 5 you should be able to get for under, I'd say, what, $40 each. Again, if you're not looking for 8.0, 9.0 stuff like I normally do, and mid-grade copies are fine, these numbers will obviously be significantly lower, but a fun 5-issue short series to pick up. The last series that I'll cover in this video is one that I think is an absolute train wreck, but you can't take your eyes off of it, and that is Supervillain Team Up. A crazy series with innumerable artists and writers and quality, etc., but it's a lot of fun simply for the goofiness and sort of the irregularity of it. Supervillain Team Up lasted for 14 issues. Initially, the first issue was in August of 1975, and then it lasted until number 14, which was in October of 1977. There were a couple more issues. The number 15 came out in November of 78, so a year after 14, and then 16, the final issue, was in May of 1979, another 6 months after issue 15. Incidentally, there are also 2 giant-size supervillain team-ups, and they came out before the regular series did and consisted of a lot of reprint issues from Fantastic Four and a couple of other titles at the time. This series features mostly Doctor Doom. It has a lot of Doctor Doom covers throughout the entire thing, but there's a lot of appearances by Submariner and Red Skull are probably the other 2 most common one. I told you this book has a lot of a lot of artists. Just to give you a few, you have George Tuska, Sal Buscema, George Evans, Jim Mooney, Herb Trimpe, Keith Giffen, Bob Hall, and that's in 16 issues. There's a whole bunch of them. This series is pretty affordable, though. If you're patient, number 1 is a book that the price just kind of goes up and down all the time. But if you're patient, I think you can find a very high grade of number 1 for $40 to $50, and the rest should be significantly less than that. You should be able to get most of them for $10, $12, $15 in high grade, or less if you're not looking for high grade. So another goofy series, Supervillain Team Up, just 16 issues, one that is pretty easy to get and not too expensive. So that's it for this video. I hope you keep enjoying these. I'll do more of these. I got plenty more short series that I can talk about as things go on here. In the meantime, give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, all that stuff that everybody does on every YouTube video. But until then, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much, and hang in there.